Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 81st installment of the Bunch of Grifters podcast. My name is Brett, and I'm joined by my beautiful co-host here, Jeremy. And, budget, fucking budget, break your budget your money, you guys. Every month, set up a budget and fucking do it.
Wait, where'd that come from? Budget?
I'm just spewing fucking life
Facts?
skills and stuff. If you don't budget, you're just, I don't know.
You got a budget, boys.
Well, know how much you're going to be spending this month.
I don't budget.
Know how much you got coming in. Well, you could benefit from it.
I could benefit from a budget.
So, guys,
Benny budget.
this is a special episode. We got on a very important guest.
Fuck you.
We had
Shut up, bitch.
we had Stefano on.
Finally, we had
Finally,
Stefano.
it's
We've been
been
trying, but I mean, we've been trying to get him on because he's a hot commodity, and it was fun.
Yeah, no,
It's
we've been waiting a while to get him on. We're happy. Timing finally worked out. One of the instructors for MovNat on the Vancouver Island area.
Yeah.
It's a global company. A lot of cool stuff he gets into. It's a lot of fun. But before we dive into the interview there, let's go over our goals quick.
Yeah. Last week we were reading.
Yeah, I guess our goals are the same. Let's finish our books, which I believe we did.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I finished mine last night, so I did. Or
Holy shit.
before I started work yesterday, but I kind of
Under the
planned on it.
wire.
I was like scared to finish it. I was scared to finish the book
Is it good?
because it was so good.
Yeah.
And like, dude, the ending is bonkers in it. Anyways, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, the guy who created or wrote The Martian.
Nice.
Highly recommend it. It's a fun little book. It starts off terribly. The first 3 chapters, I'm like, ugh, this is garbage.
Yeah.
I don't want a Martian part 2. Like, this is so stupid.
Switches up a little bit.
But then in the fourth, fifth, or maybe like 8th chapter in, it's like the big twist hits, and I'm like, I cried 3 times reading this book. It was really that good. And I'd recommend it to anybody. If you like sci-fi, I think if you're a big sci-fi,
Give it a read, you guys. Go get it.
it's a great one.
I would recommend my book even too, The First Hunger Games, if you haven't read it.
The Hunger Games.
Great book. I don't know what kind of Hunger Games you're talking about.
Oh, they're starving in India is what I'm saying.
Let's dive into this week's goal.
Yeah.
Jeremy, your goal here for this week is pretty pivotal because we, on Saturday the 12th, are going to be in Vancouver for a podcast networking event.
Yeah,
and,
it's so corny. I love it. I'm so excited.
You're going to put some business cards. I could sit down and help, obviously, with design and everything, but like, we're going to get some business cards prepared and ready to hand out while we're there.
I will get her done.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that.
Yeah.
I wish my goal was kind of oriented around that, but like, I don't know, I've already kind of...
There's not much you can do.
Not much I can do, right?
Yeah.
So I did this last Thursday. I biked all the way to the ocean there. It's about like 15 minutes, depending on how fast you're going and whatnot.
Yeah.
And just read. I'm going to do that twice this week. I just kind of want to... Fuck, it felt so good to just escape. And I don't know, my foot's all fucked up, so I'm not really looking the box right now.
Sure.
And I need to get better fit gloves because my hand hurts.
Sure.
My gloves are too small. So, yeah, Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to go do that.
Yeah.
That's me it.
I love it.
Are you seriously watching porn by yourself?
No, I'm with my
I thought you'd like that
I
one.
haven't pressed that one yet.
The names are nice.
Yeah, they
You
are.
actually know what you're hitting
I actually
now.
know what I'm hitting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fuck you. We don't fucking need that shit. So anywho, you guys, goals out of the way. This interview was awesome. A lot of good stuff to take away from it. Stefano's got a lot of good information to provide everyone. He's an older gentleman, but he literally is in the best shape of his life.
He's in the best shape of his life, but also like mentally, he's just so with it. I don't know. I mean, he's not a fucking geezer or anything. It's not like he'd be losing his mental state or anything, but he's just very with it. Like, it was very cool. I think we could have talked to him like all of our other guests for another 3 hours. Like, it was.
Get him on again.
Yeah, we'll get him on again, and we'll follow up with him, of course.
Yeah.
He set a goal for himself. He's filming a little episode for MovNat, so on balance.
Balance hasn't been
so-
done yet, so he's got to.
So that'll be really cool.
research in and do it. So yeah, that's cool. Anywho, let's get on into it.
Yeah, let's jump into it.
Let's get into the interview. Alrighty, guys, we're joined here today with Stefano. This is going to be a sick little interview here. I'm really excited. I guess I just want to get this off my chest first. When I first saw you at the gym, Fuck, you're intimidating, man. You scared the fuck out of me.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's just, I knew like you would be cool, but I was like just a little bit scared of you. I don't know.
Okay,
I
that's
wasn't sure what was going on. I think it maybe all the tattoos, sick hair. I was just like, fuck, man. Gotta be careful.
Yeah, just the way I look at you, motherfucker.
Like, oh, who's
Across
this?
the room.
Who's this fucking?
Who's
You
this
see
young
me
guy?
on the new chump
Yeah,
on
I
the block,
clocked
right?
you too.
You knew what was up. It was all planned.
Yeah, that's it's all an act.
Because then I remember Taylor introduced me to you, and I was like, holy fuck, he's actually like one of the nicest guys I've ever met.
That's probably what stopped me from getting laid so long in my life.
It's far too nice.
Yeah, no, just too intimidating.
Okay.
Unapproachable.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying you were too nice, so you switched it, and that's what helped. You became like unapproachable, and that's what got the girls.
The man of mystery.
Yeah.
Well, whatever it is, it's working now. So
Fair enough. I love that. And obviously, so Brett and Steph met here in the gym. Is it Steph or Stefano?
whichever. Stefano's good. Steph works.
Okay. Pardon me. I have a buddy named Steph. So
It's
I'm
okay.
used to
Go,
saying
roll with it, brother. Roll with it.
Love it. You've obviously been in the gym for a while, and you're absolutely built. How long have you been going so hard at the gym? Like, has this been a lifelong journey, or is this newer for you?
Honestly, I have to thank my older brother for this. So shout out to Chris.
Fuck yeah.
He was a regular reader of like Muscle and Fitness and Flex magazine back in the 80s, and he had an old one of those like Yorkville like those cable machines. I can't remember what the brand was these times, but he had them in his bedroom, and he's a welder by trade now, but he also used to make himself all sorts of crazy gym gear. So there was a dip machine. He had a pull-up bar in his room and weights and everything. Yeah. So I was hugely influenced by him and the magazines, flipping through those as a kid, as you can imagine, right? So that was the heyday for bodybuilding. And I bought a weight belt at a local like a big show that we had come into town. You know, I'm from a really small town, so my influences were.
Which town are you from?
Very limited.
In BC or?
No, Ontario, northwestern Ontario, little town called Sioux out. So we had this big trade show every year, and I went there and I got a weightlifting belt and a big tub of protein. And probably some gloves, right? And I thought I was the shit. I didn't know anything about anything back then. So just what I saw in the magazines, what I saw my brother do. So my consistency was all up and down. I'd probably do it for a weekend and then take a week off. Like, you know, and so that was my entry into it. And then I think the what got me sort of consistent in the idea of training and consistency and what it means to make progress would have been when I started martial arts more formally, and that would have been 1992, 93.
Oh, wow. Okay. And like mixed martial arts, just all of them?
No, mixed martial arts wasn't really a thing quite yet then, right? So that would have been 1993 that happened.
Oh, interesting.
But, that's a whole story too. But I got involved with just a local club. Someone came up from Toronto, which is like 26 hours away south. Yeah. They started a Taekwondo program. So I swear I was the first one to sign up. I was really into ninjas all through the 80s and G.I. Joe and all that. So I couldn't wait, man. I think I was the first one to sign up, honestly. Yeah. And I was hooked. I was hooked right off the bat. Cool. And I was never really a sports person. So when I discovered martial arts, like in a more formal way, I was hooked, man. I was hooked, and I was actually pretty good. I was pretty decent. So I stuck with that.
Did you do any like competition or?
Yeah, absolutely. And there wasn't any talk of competition at that time, but there was another group of karate, like karateka people, and they're from a town an hour away. Okay. And they actually showed up at my gym as a sort of a scouting capacity. Dojo. Yeah. And they kind of saw what I was doing, and they pulled me aside after, like, hey, like you're showing a little bit of promise in what you're doing. You should come check out this competition we have in our town. Right. So
they were trying to scout you.
I kind of felt like I got scouted, and so I started getting my sights on that. And I remember the day that it came. It was this little town called Dryden, and I packed up my buddies and the Aerostar van, my mom's van, or my friend's mom's van, and we cruised out there. And,
classic.
It was pretty classic. I was pretty overconfident. So
This is like some karate.
I
Kid
got
shit.
there.
Your fucking posse
Oh,
with
you
you.
can tell, yeah. It was. I felt like a movie until we walk in and I start seeing, you know, what these other people are doing and what they're wearing. They had these flashy suits,
Right,
and
yeah.
I just had this like old crusty pajama style gi and
Even better for the movie.
oh, man,
Come
yeah.
on. Like,
And so, you know, these kids were like polished, right? They're
Yeah.
from the big city,
Yeah.
and so I was immediately intimidated. I was like, oh shit, like what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
But I had my posse with me, and they're up in the stands, and they're cheering me on. And my very first fight, I think I lasted 10 seconds, and I was out. It was disqualified. I was out. That was it. I got beat.
yeah.
And
wow.
I realized that there was a rule set that I had no idea. I just had no idea what to expect. So with that knowledge, I went back and I sort of learned the rules of engagement and learned how to play this game. And I'm proud to say I never lost since. And
Really?
yeah, I
Yeah.
never
Wow,
lost
good
since.
for you. Wow.
I took it a lot more seriously.
God, you said that so humbled. Oh my God.
And
Never
well, it taught me a lot, right?
Yeah.
It taught me a lot about what real work ethic is, because I think until that point I'd sort of coasted on just being the top dog in my little tiny pond, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then I realized I think there's a bigger world out there. So I definitely took it more seriously, and I did really well for years. So that's my story for a competition. And through that time, I kind of ventured out and did a lot of different things too. So, you know, 1993, UFC happened, and I became more of a seminar junkie. So I would travel a lot, not just for competition, but I'd travel and do workshops and seminars with like early pioneers in that.
Really?
Yeah, so
Okay.
yeah. Go
that
down,
we're in the
travel
beginning of
to-
it.
Yeah.
Very
So down
cool.
to Minneapolis and Toronto, and yeah, I took it really seriously. I was hooked, man.
Well, and so you never did like organized sports while you were younger, is that correct?
No, I maybe like a little bit of baseball until like this girl I had a crush on struck me out.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah, and that was
just wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
I didn't follow sports, so I
Sure.
didn't know what the rules were, right? So
Yeah.
when they passed me the puck or they passed me the ball, I wouldn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, that hockey stick is not a sword, Stefano.
No, but it was my whole life, and so I just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to play the game, so that left a mark. And
No.
so I actually had really low self-esteem for a lot of years because I wouldn't get chosen. Like,
Right.
you know, my friends, so-called friends, they wouldn't choose me to play at recess. I was never like a big choice for any of the intramurals. Like, it was
Sure.
a big hockey town, and I didn't play hockey. I couldn't even really skate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
that's got to be weird when you're in one of those little, Ontario towns, because that's kind of what they do,
Yeah.
right? Like that's what they're
and
built,
breathe it.
not built on, but I mean the arena. That's where people go, and that's where, like, if I'm
Dude,
not
the
mistaken,
irony
right?
around that is that my dojang, so in Korean it's called dojang.
Yeah,
My dojang was on the guest goalie, just opposite that wall was where I trained. So I would hear all of the hockey going
Yeah.
on just on the wall right opposite where I trained. And then even funnier is that the light that you switch when they score
it was on your side.
was on. Well, yeah, there would have to be like this kid on the inside of my dojang flicking the light when they
The
scored
goal
a
light.
goal, right? So I was never far removed from it.
Yeah,
But yeah, all my friends play hockey and I just didn't. So
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
a little bit of a black sheep, and so that
it
worked
makes
well.
sense. It makes sense that while you kind of fell into the martial arts, once you found something that was kind of. I know it's not team oriented when you're in the ring, but your team helps you get into the ring, right? Like that's the whole part of it, right?
Yeah,
Or-
there was definitely more cohesion.
Yeah.
As far as us as a group, and as we started competing more, that started to build too the
Yeah.
camaraderie around us.
absolutely.
But it's still very much a independent activity, and I think
Sure.
that's what.
When you're on the mat, it's you and that person.
Yeah, it was
Right.
well, and even more, it's just you against yourself, really.
Okay. Yeah.
a
Fair
good way
enough.
to look at
Yeah,
it.
that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
And so if I made a mistake, I couldn't blame or like hold to account anyone else on the team. It was me. It was all me.
Oh, I did that. Of course, he's gonna grab my hand and put me here. I did that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's all me. So
Yeah.
there was all accountability fell on me, and I was okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the other part is that when you start doing well, like you get to also absorb all of that, the positivity and that reinforcement from doing well. And
Sure.
you and the team, but really it's very uniquely individualized sport. So.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I saw this one clip online where it was this one kid, I think it was maybe jiu-jitsu, I think is what he was doing. And he had won like 2 big medals, and then he lost one. His third one he lost. And after his third, like, I guess it was in the same tournament, right? His, what would you call it? His sensei came up to him, or I don't know what they call it in jiu-jitsu, but he gave him his black belt when he lost. And he's like, I don't feel like I deserve it. It's like, you worked so hard for this, and I don't want you to think that just winning means you get this reward. You failed a lot and you've won a lot. And, you know, now it's your turn to pass this on to the next person, take that. And I just find that stuff so cool. I find that so interesting. I think that's one thing about martial arts is that it builds such a big respect for the sport, but also, and I think you can talk on this a lot more, it builds a big amount of discipline for especially young kids, but anyone. I mean, you could be 30 and you could pick it up and you'd probably get an amazing amount of discipline out of it.
Massive character building opportunity.
Right. Yeah. You'd say so.
Indomitable spirit, just perseverance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes into it, especially when like nobody does well their first time out. You lose a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You lose a lot. And then it's about the ability to keep showing up and keep advancing and not letting that knock you down for any prolonged time.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Well, losing, I mean, it's like chess, you know, you got to lose a lot of games of chess before you even know how to fucking move the pieces.
Yeah.
Like it's, I don't know. That's one thing that he and I have been doing a little bit more, and I'm so bad at chess.
Yeah.
But I've been playing so much that I've been learning to like, oh, I see this pattern.
Right.
And it's like, oh, the numbers start coming.
Strategy. So you don't just start looking at your next move. You're already 2, 3, 4 moves in the head, right?
Yeah, like a plan A.
F7's
plan.
mine.
Yeah, contingency plans, and if this, then this.
It's like, if he moves this way, I'll have something to put there.
Yeah, see, and you get to test it out, and if it works, good, and if not, man, you've got another strategy. And everybody's so complex in the way they think. So,
but going back to also just the one-on-one thing is that with chess, I find the exact same way is when you screw up, you screwed up.
Right.
You know, I mean, you can make the wrong move and then they cannot take it, and then you know they screwed up, right? And that does definitely happen when you're playing at such a low level. But I mean, like that feeling when you fucking take your finger off or you move the piece and you're like, oh, what did I do? It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling to just keep yourself like, right. Okay, don't do that next time.
it keeps you humble.
Yeah, it really does. And like, that's the thing. You don't beat the other person. You beat yourself when it's with chess, which is kind of interesting.
There are a lot of correlations for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And it also, goes out into your everyday life. So I think at least it should. And if it's not, then, maybe you can start to think a little bit more deeply about that and the philosophy that you start to build in your those external environments away from the board game.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, there's a lot you can learn from just the board game too. But I mean, from the martial arts, did you find that did give you a boost of discipline throughout? Like when did you start doing this? Were you like 14, 15?
I was 13, 14, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's like pretty good years to start then, right? Like, did you notice that when you were doing it, or was it until you were like 23, 25, you're like, oh, fuck, that was a really good lesson to learn? Like, yeah,
maybe you don't, I mean, your brain is hardly formed at those ages. So I think
you're telling us.
I don't think it really, I honestly don't think that I understood what was going on until probably into my 20s.
Yeah.
And maybe even later. I mean, I understood that there was development going on, and I did notice a little bit of my confidence was starting to increase, but there has to be enough consistency in order to really go back, because you only get one thing. You can have your track record, right? So I just look back at my track record, and if that's been consistent, that's I think what motivates me.
Yeah. It's a good way of looking at it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I loved how you talked about, just like earlier, you said being a small fish from like a small pond, and then when you get to the big, like, the big pond, you're like, holy fuck. I think I was reading Jordan Peterson's book. He was talking about that. He's like,
you'll never do as
people
well.
Who are like the big athletes from like the small little school, the small town. Everyone knows them, and then they like, they graduate, They go to the university. Next thing you know, they're playing against 3 other people for the starting position on their university team, college team, or way better than them, and they've never had to experience that shit.
Yeah, and
that's the fucking breaking point. I feel like for a lot of
some people never get that opportunity.
Yeah,
they just become so complacent that they never make that jump. They've never had to, and it's unfortunate because life, you can't choose your battles in life sometimes. So it'll often come at the worst time when you're least prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you can set up that sort of those, not false, but, like I talk about the laboratory where you get to test these things out and then you bring them and you pressure test it in the real world.
Okay.
If you don't ever get that opportunity, you're fooling yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Or you crash and burn when it actually matters.
Yeah. No, I mean, just from experience, like I was born in Whitehorse, Yukon, and not a tiny city, but definitely, 10, 15 people in my grad class if I would have stayed there. Thankfully, my parents moved in 2008 because they were just so depressed living there. My mom had lived there her entire life. And, oh my God, if my mom stayed there, she would not be doing well right now. Like, I can guarantee that. She got out of that city at like 35 years old, I think. Yeah, 37 years old. And like, she's now 50, 52 or whatever it is. And her life is completely different. Like, she's lost 500 pounds. She's like so much healthier. She's so much happier. She got rid of my dad, like stuff like that. But it's just like, oh my God, if she never made that leap and just like, okay, I am unhappy, I need to change my life. I don't know. I think there's something to be said about like growing up in a small town, but it's really valuable to just
small town mentality.
Yeah, you can tell those people that never got out.
Yeah, they just stay there and they get stuck.
Yeah, they're just stagnant. So the best thing that you can do to elicit change immediately is just change the environment that you're in.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's so true. I mean, what's that stat? The heroin use in Vietnam. Have you heard about this? No. The heroin use in Vietnam was like pretty much every single soldier tried heroin while they were there, and most of them were addicted to it because it was just so readily available. They gave them whatever they wanted, and so cheap to make. And when they got home, over 90% of them never touched heroin again because it was just a change of location. It was just a change of location. But a lot of people, or environment, specifically environment, right? Because a lot of people, they could be a druggie and then move to another city, but still be a druggie in that city. Like it's a matter of getting rid of your means of doing it entirely and just completely switching your life. So 1, fighting for your life, and then 2, okay, I now have my wife and kids or something completely different going on. It's a big environment change.
It's an opportunity anyway, right? So you can either you can take it or you can't. So
Still
you have
on
to
you.
change all of your habits, right? You're changing the people that you engage with.
It's a big one.
Huge. So your influences start to change. So it's an opportunity that's there. Right? It's whether or not you want to take advantage of that.
Sure.
Right? It's like every decision that you make when you move to a new place changes. Your mental mapping has to change to reflect your commute, where you're going to get groceries, the way that you engage in that environment. So are you driving the same way that you used to? Are you commuting? Are you riding a bike? Or are you in a scooter? Or are you walking? Like all these things, at least you have an opportunity to change them.
Mm-hmm.
So I lived overseas for 3 years, and I think that was the biggest change in my development that I had in my entire life. My brain changed. Everything about the way that I saw the world changed. I had to learn a new language. So just everything, the way that I even look at language now, the way that I understand English has changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I had to do it. And there were some, I say I had to do it, but that's actually not true. I made myself have to change because when I moved to Italy for 3 years, and I was there working at an international British school.
Okay.
And the first year I was provided accommodation through the school. So they paid my bills. I just had to pay out, right? So, but everything was taken care of. I didn't have to deal with anything. And then my second and third year, I decided I wanted to completely immerse myself in this experience. So
the culture.
I got rid of that place and I had to find my own.
Right.
So I had to build a script because this isn't a second language. My command of Italian at that point was not very good.
Sure.
Right? So I had to build a script in order just to find a place. So all the common questions that I would get asked, I'd be stumped on the first one.
Right.
So I'd add that into my script. And so the next person that I went, the next landlord, the next developer, I'd ask them these questions. And then eventually somewhere along the line, they'd stump me with something different. So I'd add that to my script. So by the time that I found my place, I was completely confident in what I needed, what I was looking for, what they were going to ask me for.
Because you'd already gone through the process.
I'd already gone through the process, so my language skills developed there. But then I had to set up my recycling. I had to set up my power. I had to set up internet. And each one of these steps just advanced me a little bit more. Yeah. And then because I wasn't around a supermarket anymore, I chose just to go to the market in the square. So then I had to interact with people.
How you're supposed
in real time,
Yeah.
I'd have to ask for what I wanted and just tell them measurements and weights. And man, it was incredible.
It's so cool.
In
it's
that
so cool.
year, I learned more than I think that I would have been 5-6 years maybe if I'd not made that decision.
Were you fluent in French before going?
No,
just curious because you
no,
never
it would
know
have
over
definitely
there.
helped.
Yeah.
Any Latin spine, it definitely helped. But
because I tried doing some Italian. I downloaded Duolingo and I was looking because I do speak French fluently and oh my gosh, what a fun language. But anyways, it's very cool. You really just picked it up, hey? Just was it talking to people that just struggling through conversations?
Myself to talk, forcing myself into
being awkward, like I don't really know what the fuck I'm saying.
Making mistakes, right?
And then they're like, like they tell you, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're just being willing.
Vaffanculo.
Vaffanculo. Just being willing to make mistakes and then not getting caught up with your ego and when you're being corrected.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's a big one.
I love it.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, you got to think of it like I have people coming in all the time and they're Spanish speaking. I'm serving at the moment. And like, they can obviously get through the conversation, right? They can get through the English. But it's like, just have a little patience. Just have a little patience. Or when they don't know a word, just say the word. I'm like, oh, that's that.
I think the service industry is one of the life hacks for people. So,
totally.
Massive.
I work with a girl who came from Thailand. She knew English a bit over there. Like they had to learn English, but she'd never used it. She doesn't talk to English speaking people all the time. She was speaking Thai, right? And she came over. She got a job as a server, and like within 3 months, she was fluent.
Damn.
Right, but not only fluent, but the banter. Like she's like
picked up quick.
I could speak English. I knew how to speak English when I got here, but I couldn't understand anyone because your guys speak so fucking improper and so broken, which is so true. Because when I learned French, I was in French immersion for like fucking 13 years, because I did it for preschool, not because I went to 13th year, you fuckers. I remember like going to Quebec, and it's like, what the fuck are you guys saying?
You got slang, you've got colloquialisms.
Yeah.
You got figures of speech. And then trying to be humorous in a second language, right?
It's so hard.
The biggest struggle I had was not being able to be seen as funny, right?
Right, because you don't know how to zang anything.
They must have thought, like, this guy is so dry.
There's no substance, man.
Like there's nothing going on. And so when I learned just, how to express myself, and suddenly I could engage in humor, and holy shit, that changed everything.
Yeah. I can only imagine.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. Because humor is one thing that like everybody can appreciate.
And they take it for granted.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Especially in an English-speaking country, you can just kind of banter with anyone, right? You can, what the fuck you doing? You can just do whatever you want. Like, I had a bunch of Americans in last night. This is weird. This is super random. A bunch of Americans came to the bar. They were cleaning my tables for me. It was the weirdest American. They were like 20 years old. But they're like, yeah, people just leave their cups on the tables when they're done. I'm like, well, yeah, we clean up after you tip us. And they're like, no, we got to bring them to the bar for you, man. And I'm like, okay. They were like, I was like, you guys want to put some chairs up? They're like, yeah, sure. They're flipping chairs. Anyways, sorry, just random. Nicest Americans I've ever had in my life. But I love it when people come from other countries. Like it's fun. I've had a lot of Germans coming in.
The Germans.
A little bit. And I wish I knew a little bit more German.
I want to pick up German. That's like a language I want to learn.
Yeah, it's a tough sounding language.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine introducing yourself saying some of that.
Yeah, they're just like prefixes and suffixes all strung together. They'll have a word which is like 50 characters long.
And it means a sentence.
Yeah.
Right? Or it can mean a sentence, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, German is it's an incredible language.
No, but if there's any language we should all be learning right now, it's Mandarin. Bing chilling. You know, we should definitely start learning some Mandarin because we're going to need it soon. That's terrifying.
Yeah, you're opening up a can of worms there.
Yeah, absolutely. We love CCP. We love you guys. We post this on YouTube, so we need to make sure that we don't. Google doesn't come attacking us, right? Taiwan doesn't exist. Just kidding.
I'm staying far away from that.
No, I'm just kidding. It's all jokes. Just kidding. Yeah, but no, I do find that really cool, like Italian. So you eventually, was it like a year and a half in, you kind of felt comfortable? Or?
I have family that live down in the south, and I made it a goal to be able to at least converse in a very conversationally. I just wanted to be secure in that so I could go down and meet my relatives.
Yeah, totally. Good for you.
So about it was the second summer that I was there. That's when I went down. Traveled south, and I met a bunch of relatives, and it was beautiful. So much better than had I not. Right. So I was able to get the history of my grandmother, and see my nonna's house and where she was born, and my nonno and my grandfather.
Wow.
And I got the whole story about how they met and the way of living, and met my nonna's best friend, and it was quite beautiful.
Got welcomed in and got to say hi to the familia.
La familia, yeah.
I love it.
So it was good. It was really good. So I'm really glad that I did that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's almost something I wish maybe we could even do in the future. Just pull the trigger and go do the podcast somewhere for 3 years.
Oh, that's what you were saying. I thought you were going to say, well, I want to impregnate a Sicilian woman because I find I just think Italy is the best. I think Italian women are probably the top tier women. Would you disagree with me? Would you agree with me? What do you think? You were there for a year. What do you think?
Listen, man, there's
psychos?
No, listen, the women are beautiful everywhere. Yeah. It really depends on whether they're willing to take you on.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. You got to be in a spot where you're capable of providing. I understand that. But no, I find the Italian culture, I think, is just amazing. Big families, great food, loud. Food. I like the loudness and like yelling, passion. Nobody gets offended too easily over there. Like you can yell at each other and give it to each other. I don't know. It seems really cool.
Have you been?
I've never been in my entire life. I've watched a lot of Jersey Shore though.
Oh yeah, okay. It's a different breed.
That's like a mix. That's like the evolution of what America is, pretty much, unfortunately.
So when my grandfather and all his brothers and sisters emigrated out of Italy after the war, my grandfather went to this little town where I was born, but everybody else actually went down to New York. Okay. So I have a lot of relatives in New York and New Jersey. So.
Oh yeah, that's so funny. Bunch of Guidos.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's a thing.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. Too. Yeah. I didn't watch Jersey Shore until I was later in life. Everybody watched it when they were 15, 16. I watched it during the pandemic. I lived vicariously through them going out because we couldn't do anything, and oh my God, just an absolute mess. It was so fun to watch, but just seeing the other people that are around too, like it's not just those 5 people. Like that is a type of person down there. The tanning gym bro, like Italian dude.
Yeah, and they typecast too, like they end up suffering from audience capture. They really start to embody that caricature. Yeah. Right, of that person, and so I mean they've all done well for themselves. So.
Well, I mean the first 2 seasons were fantastic because they were nobodies and they were just being like crazy, but then the 5th season they like stopped doing blow and stuff. It's like, what are we watching?
Yeah, I never really got into that. Actually, no, I know about it, but I never watched it.
It's absolute garbage. You're smart.
I haven't seen it either myself. So
yeah, it's absolute garbage for sure. Yeah. I'm going to go back to the language too, because
Sure.
there's one other thing. Did you watch a lot of TV to learn, or was it more just going out and struggling to talk to people? Because I've heard this where if you watch stuff with subtitles on
Yeah.
and just get into the like reading the words and hearing the words and understanding like, oh, that's that conjugation, or
Yeah.
oh, that's this, right?
I've read children's books.
Oh, shit.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
I've read
smart.
children's
Right.
books and I watched cartoons because at that point,
So
a
simple.
lot of it would have been a little bit too sophisticated. But, speaking of Jersey Shore, though, if you have the
Interesting.
opportunity to rewatch something you're already familiar with subtitles, and then flip it on its head and then listen to the
gosh,
audible
yeah.
and then watch it with English subtitles, you sort of, it helps to do both. Because you're already familiar with the subject matter, you're familiar with who the characters are, so you can shut that part of your brain
Right.
off.
You don't have to know what the plot is.
And
Or
you don't
this-
need to follow that. You
Yeah.
can just sort of rewatch it again in a different context.
Yeah.
That I did a little bit of that. Not as much, but I think children's books and some cartoons.
That's interesting. I
I
never
used to
thought of that. The
read
children's
these-
books.
Yeah,
That's
graphic
smart.
novels. I love this one called Diabolic, and of course, like it's an assassin ninja character. I love that.
Yeah.
I would
Saw
read
that, you're like, yep.
yeah, and every time I'd flip through it again, it's like I would just understand a little bit more, right?
Yeah, sure.
Language is beautiful like that. It's recursive. So every time you get back to it, you know a little bit more.
Yeah.
So you can just take it in and get a deeper level of understanding.
Yeah.
So I loved the process of learning a new language, and it changed my brain. So I can see English in a very different way now. I
Totally.
understand my own language, my own mother tongue. I understand it in a deeper level now.
English is trash compared. Like it's so garbage to learn if you've learned the other version first, the Latin descent, whatever you want to call it, right? Just the conjugation part of things. Russian, German, that's a whole different game, obviously.
Because when you're learning a second language, you're learning the grammatics as well.
Exactly.
Right? So in English, you just took it for granted. And
Totally.
So having to go back and relearn it with those rules in place, it's very eye opening.
Yeah. See, that's why
But our language is incredibly robust. Like the amount of words that we have to say the same thing, it's actually astounding. I was more interested in the lack of some diversity in language and the richness of it when I was learning Italian, because in English we'd have so many different ways to say it. And what I noticed is that there was a very common thread in the Italian language and ways to express yourself and say things. Not that it's not rich, but in English you could just be completely drowning in nuance.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's the biggest thing. And I think that's why it's so difficult for people to learn it, because our sentences don't necessarily follow a set, I don't know, path, I guess you could say. Or the way I was taught French is that it's like mathematics, right? So you have your verb, you have your unit conjugation, you have to do this. And it's very, you do all your stuff, and then that's how you form your sentence. But with English, you can just kind of and then your point totally gets across. Anybody who speaks English can completely understand what you just said. But for them, they're like, wait, what? How did you put that there? That doesn't make any sense, right? And that's the cool thing about English is it's just so intuitive almost, right? There's still conjugation in it, but it's not nearly as convoluted as the other other languages. But did you ever get to a point where you're like, oh, how could I say this? And it's like, well, you could say this, right? But there's no word for it. Is that what you're saying that you found while you were in Italy? There's some ways you couldn't express what you wanted to say.
Well, that would have been my own limitation.
Right,
But
okay,
I think more
sure,
so what I mean
yeah,
is
sure.
that there are like very classical ways to say things. And
Right.
I didn't see a lot of variation on the way that people spoke. So it made it easier for me to learn that way.
Right.
Whereas,
There's
like you
a
said,
more
in English-
formal way of saying goodbye,
Yeah.
right? Arrivederci is goodbye, right? But there's like another way of saying it.
Yeah,
right?
well, that's actually not a bad example. Like, there are only so many ways to say hello and goodbye.
Yeah.
Because, God.
Whereas in English, it's got 100 ways to do it.
Peace, see ya, fucker. Out of here. Adios. Oh, that's fucking.
Right?
That's still English, though.
But that's the joke, too, is like how many ways can you use the word fuck? Right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a noun, verb, and adjective. Like,
Yeah.
Put it anywhere you want.
Yeah.
That is the doggle. I mean, you can make a word in English. Like that's the fun thing. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think language is really cool, but it's interesting that you say that you felt like you see English differently now that you have that other language.
Yeah, etymology, right? So I understand word origins now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually a lot more careful about my precision with language now.
Interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, there's something to it. I don't know. I was forced to fucking learn French, and I took it for granted. I hated it, but I can still pull it out of my ass every now and then. And I can speak French. Like it is cool. And I used to dream in French when I was like grade 10, 11, 12. Like I was fully in French. Like I could do it. Right. It was when I went to Quebec too, and I started talking to the guys there, and they said "p" and "donc." P is like, "donc" is kind of like as well. And then when you're talking, you just sound so much cooler. Like you just like use those little like things. It's not even slang, but it just sounds like slang.
Quebecois is an antiquated version of French.
Yeah, it's very
yeah. So when French came to Canada, right? It didn't evolve the same way that Parisian French did. And so there's a lot of words that they would just laugh at you if you went to France and you spoke Quebecois, they would laugh at you because you'd be using the same words in a lot of situations, be using the same words that their grandparents did.
Right. That's what it is. It's just
stopped
an old
French.
Evolved
in a little different way. Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, I went to Paris and they didn't like my French. They fucking hated my French. They were very rude about it too, to be completely honest. Some people were nice. When I spoke to people my age, they were really nice because I went out a couple times just on my own. And, I'd start talking to them and they just speak English to me, right? And like, our English is better. And I'm like, fuck, dude, I've been learning French for 13 years. So can you go fuck yourself? And they're like, yeah, but your French is shit. And I'm like, okay, fine, right? And like, we would do our stuff and it's all good. But I would still try and use my French as best as I could. But even my mom, like, and her French is decent. She's done okay. She studied baking in Paris for like 2 years. So she did that whole thing. She lived in Paris. So her French is decent. But even when she spoke whenever we were in like a bakery or whenever we were going out and just ordering something, they'd always respond in English. So now I've made it a thing that whenever I'm serving French people, I am a complete cunt to them because they don't deserve the respect coming to Canada. They're always very nice. But I always say that to like whenever I'm serving a German table, I'm like, oh, you're from here. Like, no, Germany. I'm like, thank God you're not from Paris. Everybody loves that. Everybody like that, hates everybody hates France in that area. It's so funny. It is so funny because they're just so pretentious about it. Like, I don't know. I do love French. I think it's a really cool language. But I think I don't know. I'd like to get into another one. I was actually looking at Mandarin just for the fun of it because I think if you can learn Mandarin, I think the same thing you said, where your brain kind of changes and you just look at languages differently. Fuck. I mean, that language is just insane because you can say one thing and it means like a whole fucking paragraph. And like they speak in just a very different way.
That's a tonal language.
It's just so, yeah, right. So it's very based on like your tongue movements, right? Yeah. Like, which takes a long time to understand.
Yeah, you have several words that sound almost the same. There's just a little bit of nuance that's different.
Yeah.
They have a completely different meaning. It's incredible. It's
just cool. It's just cool how there's just such different, like, people are speaking that language every single day and they're totally fine. Like, I don't know. Obviously, I know English is, what was it? Like only 12% of the planet speaks English or something. It's a very low number.
Less than you'd think. Yeah.
Look that up. What do you think it is? I think it's 12.
I have no idea anymore.
I have a feeling it's more than that.
Nah. Well, no, like first language.
Okay, you want first language?
Well, apparently one of the easiest Asian languages to learn is Korean because it was a manufactured language in a sense that it was developed in order to teach it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so it was built to be... Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Korean's cool. I'd love to go to Seoul. I think that'd be a really cool place to visit. Like, apparently Korea is like one of the most advanced cities in the planet. Like, just
13%.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Integration. See, I pull numbers out of my ass, and sometimes they're accurate.
I'm surprised.
Me too. They have like the most integrated technology, and like when you go to any hotel room there, you get the email on your watch, and then you can open your door with your watch. Like they've gotten that stuff down like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I don't know. I just think it'd be cool to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
For sure. I like, I really do enjoy like seeing different architecture and like civil engineering and like seeing how, oh wow, this is a really big path that goes to this massive garden. And like, it doesn't matter if it's a big garden fully green or a big garden that's fully cement. Like I find that stuff so interesting. So definitely a place I want to go explore one day.
And the way that people move through the city too is fascinating.
Like in the sense of driving or just like, because they're all walkable cities down there, right? They don't fuck around with this. I mean, Victoria's fantastic. Victoria is one of the best in Canada, I would say, for a walkable city. But like you go to Vancouver, it's like when you're downtown, you can do it. I don't know, Vancouver's
well, you can tell. I mean, a lot of the old European cities and Victoria is similar in the sense that it was designed around a horse and carriage, right?
Right. Okay.
So it's not a grid. So a newer city like Calgary, Edmonton, these are grid cities. You know, the avenues in the streets run east, west, north, south.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah. But here, I mean, it's easy to get lost because
it is.
You think you're going one way, but it'll just have a slow meander left or right, you know, north or south. And so, it's easy to get turned around.
That's for the horses, hey?
European cities very similar.
Yeah,
you know, they were just designed in a very different way. And a lot of times too is that the foot traffic dictated the way that the city planning would later take form.
Right.
And so it becomes a lot more efficient.
Interesting.
What's really cool is, I don't know if you heard this, but like for city design, city planning, they've been using, I think Japan.
I'm so glad you're
ended
about to
up
bring this up.
Routing its subway network by using slime molds.
Yeah, using a fungi. I was literally just about to bring that up. Yeah, it's
so
super cool.
They'd plot it and they'd put food on the at each one of the stations and along this maze, and then they'd let the slime mold work its way through and find the most efficient path to connect all these different food stashes, and that's how they redesigned it. I think that's super cool.
It's genius, honestly. Like it's so simple. Like that's such a simple way of like doing that, you know? And I'm sure they did all the math afterwards and like, is this efficient? And it's like, of course it's efficient. Like, you know, and that's what they did. Like it's very interesting to see. I mean, fungi's cool. Oh yeah. Fungi is, you know, okay, so let's jump into the spiritual stuff. So are you a fungi fanatic, or do you respect the fungi?
Yeah. And I think if it wasn't for language, I think I have a few different pinnacles as far as I think, like pillars maybe is a better word, but pillars for the way that I think best enhanced my way of thinking about the world. Language, I think, is a pillar to learn a second language. Okay. I think another one is music.
Right, learn an instrument.
Everybody should learn an instrument.
Sure.
And another one is psychedelics. I think.
Really?
I really think that most people. Now, this is if you don't obviously have, and I'm not promoting it by any means, but
no, yeah.
And especially if you have a history of mental illness in your family, I mean, be very wary about that. But I think that psychedelics play a really good, at least for me, they played a really significant role in the way that my development occurred and the way that I perceive the world now. I think had I not experimented with psychedelics, there are a lot of things, I think, a lot of doors I would have kept closed.
Yeah, you think so? Hey, interesting. Yeah, I find that interesting that there's a lot of people that, I don't know, I can understand that they're maybe scared or don't want to do it, right? But, oh man, it's just a very interesting door to open once you've opened it, right? Because then it makes you just start asking all these other questions like, wait a second, why am I seeing these things? Like, this is a plant that came out of the earth. It's now, you know what I mean? Like, it's just very strange. Like, I can't be the first person who's ate these. When they were eating those back in the day, like, what was going through their head, right? And I mean, I don't know. There is science proving it, and there's also science disproving it that like primates could have been eating mushrooms, and it could have been making more neuron connections in your brain, and you know.
Well, that's Terence McKenna's stoned ape theory.
Yeah, the stoned ape theory, and it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of interesting to think about because, I don't know. I think a lot of people would benefit from it. And actually, what I was going to go back to when you said, you know, if you have a history of the mental health, There's a lot of things out there that say, you know, mushrooms specifically can help with certain things. I mean, depression, anxiety, definitely can help if used properly. I mean, it's not a
setting dosage.
I think one misconception is
helps
that
to have a guide.
It's a drug. Yeah. It's a drug, right? That's the issue, that people think, oh, it's a drug. It's like, well, okay. And then, you know, the cop out, well, nicotine's a drug and sugar's a drug. And, you know, you could say that and you could be that guy, but you can be more realistic and say, this isn't a party drug. This isn't something to just do. And of course people do shrooms and they enjoy it and they do party on it, but that's not what the majority of people use shrooms for. They use it to go trip in the middle of a creek and just take a second, breathe for a little bit. And man, that shit's valuable.
Yeah.
Man, that is so valuable. And it's sad that some people are scared of it. I've had very deep conversations with my parents. And I'm just like, you guys should really just
and that's a
give
very
it a
cultural
shot.
thing too.
You know?
So North American culture, Western culture, we tend to go down that way. We overindulge. We don't appreciate the reverence in these things. There's a lot of respect that I think should be taken. And
absolutely.
And not just a drug, but thinking of it as a tool for consciousness. If you approach it with a little bit more respect and reverence, you can do quite wonderful things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Our brains are very powerful. And I think people are, I know people are absolutely blind to that. The majority of people are absolutely blind to the fact that your thoughts have power. And I don't know, I could get into that. But
I'm curious what's going to happen now, because mushrooms and other psychedelics seem to be occupying the same space now that weed did during that sort of gray area when everybody was smoking weed, but it was still still illegal at the time. And in that gray area, just before legalization, and how it started to become more prominent in literature, and how it became more prominent just on the news cycle. And then, you know, that June, I guess it was how many years ago now, but you can see the increase in how much more is going on. A lot more people smoke weed now than ever.
Is that true though?
I'm curious. I think
I would
stats
think so,
support
because I've seen a lot of stuff where, like, once the drug's legalized, it's a lot more people will do it in the first couple months. I mean, like, I don't know what the stat is or what it's called, the curve is called, but you can look at Colorado's weed consumption. It skyrocketed when they first did it, and like people were so worried. They were so worried. Oh my God, this is bad. Everybody's smoking weed now. But within 3 months, it plateaued out to the same amount that the average like census was of people smoking, and it was actually a little less that. So
I'd be curious to see how those numbers get crunched, because I think a lot of people were probably buying weed through illegal means.
Totally.
And then when they were able to get it, you know, at the shop, then that would have been skewed. But I think, you know, I think that would have just leveled off. And yeah, it's hard to say now where it's at. I'm one of those people that went from smoking a ton of weed every single day, all day, since I was 14, to being 8 months and not smoking anything.
Yeah.
Taking long breaks and stuff. And
I'm done, I think.
Done off it. Why is that?
I just don't feel like it was serving me the same way. I think another part of it too is it stopped being as cool because it's legal. I kind of joke about that.
I used to do fucking heroin.
I used to joke about that, but I don't know. Maybe there's a little bit of truth to that.
Sure.
It just wasn't doing for me what it once did.
Yeah.
And I had a long history with it. And, I just decided probably around 2020 that was eventually going to happen. So I doubled down and I just enjoyed the shit out of it.
Yeah.
And then one day I just knew it was my last joint.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you.
And I've not gone back.
How about like alcohol? Do you drink alcohol at all, or?
I'll have a cocktail, every other. I don't know if I had to quantify it, maybe a drink a week.
Yeah, that's
following the Canadian guidelines, guys. That's fantastic. I love to hear that.
I like a cocktail.
What's your favorite kind of cocktail?
I like Negronis.
Nice.
I'm a Bellini
Are you?
lover. I love Bellinis.
Went from a man's drink to the gayest drink you could possibly.
It's the best drink on the menu.
I like whiskey and tequila as
okay.
far as spirits for sure. Yeah, I like Japanese whiskey.
Japanese whiskey.
Yeah, and I like tequila. I'm not a huge mezcal fan. A little bit too smoky, which is why I don't like some scotches. It's too peaty, too smoky.
Yeah. I've never been able to appreciate the mezcal. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Personally, I just, I don't know. I don't, that flavor profile. I'm like, I'm drinking liquid smoke, it feels like, but I love tequila. Like I love tequila. It's fantastic. I don't know. Gin too.
Oh
Love a
yeah.
gin.
Okay.
Yeah. Gin, juniper. Love some juniper. The reason he brings it up too is like, I don't know, we're young bucks and like drinking is just so normalized.
Yeah.
It's which sucks because alcohol is terrible for you.
Alcohol is shitty.
It's so bad for you. Like I've never felt more depressed in my life than after a bender. Like it just, alcohol sucks.
Yeah, it causes way more problems than it'll ever solve.
Yeah,
and
right?
it's very attractive to young people, and it's unfortunate some fall in and never fall out. Like I think alcohol is I think that our society's built around that, and
It's alcohol and sugar. They got us hooked on both of those two things. I feel like they're the two criminal items that are just so normal.
yeah,
Sugar is the fucking worst.
Sugar's the devil, man.
Yeah,
Sugar's bad.
I'm taking the sugar train right now too.
Yeah, and it's a lot of what you see, but it's what's worse is what you don't see happening, right? With sugar, it's
What do you mean by that, Sorry?
well, you can see the physical effects on it as far as like if weight gain is something that you're looking at, but it's all the invisible things going on behind the scenes.
Mentally and stuff too.
Yeah, it's toxic.
Brett had to take a little pee. Getting back into it, I made the decision, like I said, July 5th, my birthday, just to stop, just to take a break from it because I just wanted to, one, prove to myself that I could, but I'm also trying to do all the three. As a 25-year-old, I'm trying to do all three. I'm going to really lock down my alcohol consumption. So as I was saying, my brother turns 19 on the 21st, so I'm going to go drink with him. And like what you said, I'd like to enjoy a cocktail. I'd like to enjoy a glass of wine with a pasta every now and then. And I think that's totally acceptable. It's just drinking for no fucking reason. Celebrating, I think, makes sense. Like, that's fun. It's fun to do. It's fun to be social. But, like, just the dumb drinks for no reason. It's so crazy because like, I have so many regulars that come into our bar and, like, they drink every single day.
Oh, my God.
So, like, beer specifically. And I'm like, 2 beers and I just feel like I'm going to die.
They got a barrel on them, I
Dude,
bet, eh?
they all have barrels on them. Absolute barrels. And like they have somewhere to store it. But it's just, I don't know. Like I don't think I'm going to drink beer ever again in my life. I just don't like the taste of it. And it's just so filling. So
You like the taste of it?
no, man.
There's some really good ones, though. I love a good beer here and there. I love a good beer. I don't know. When I'm jamming, like, I love to have a beer open.
I'm pretty basic for beer. I like a lager.
Yeah, me too.
Crisp,
See,
cool
I'll drink a
lager.
I'm a
fucking
pale
Molson.
ale.
I'm a
I love
piece of
those
shit.
light pale ales. Fuck, it smells. It tastes like the fucking water came off the mountain. Like,
Give me a Lucky Lager and I'm good to
I
go.
hate Lucky. Disgusting.
No, but I would. So that's main goal. Lock down my alcohol. Just have a healthy relationship with my alcohol consumption. The next one is nicotine. I'm going to stop vaping. I don't need to be vaping. It's stupid. It's dumb. I don't need nicotine. I'd rather take a drag of a cigarette once a month than vape ever. To be completely honest, it's just so stupid. It's so convenient. That's the issue, is that you can do it in your bed. You can do it in the fucking down the road. You can do it inside and people don't know. It's terrible. It's just so easy. And then the third one is going to be weed. I'm going to knock my weed consumption down considerably. Like, because I don't know. I don't want to be on drugs. I just don't want to be, I don't want to be in that atmosphere.
It ends up just becoming the way that you identify.
Exactly.
Right. And that's what happened to me. And so
Could only be a
people that
stoner
I
for
hung
so
out
long.
with, it'd just be a lot cooler if they smoke weed. If I was going to go on a date, then it'd be a lot cooler if the girl smoked weed. It was just easier that way. And so I noticed that it started putting real limitations on how I was.
The relationships you were having
relationships
with
with other people and relationship with myself. And
who are you surrounding yourself with?
yeah.
Druggies.
Yeah. So
smokers,
Yeah, and just people that understood where I was coming from too.
Totally.
It was limiting. It was just very limiting. So I let that go and I just watched the world open up. There'd be a lot of situations where I wouldn't go out after a certain times. I'd rather just go and smoke. Right. So anything that after I was
social.
done work, so I'd have to just be. I'd be very particular about how like plans that I made and where I wanted to go and who'd spend that time with.
Sure.
So now I don't have any of those concerns anymore.
Yeah.
So I've been able to open up my life a lot more. It's
It
probably the best thing that I did was stop smoking weed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
And
heard
this.
this.
Was a long time, man. It was a long time coming. I was all day, every day for years and years and years and years.
Probably save a couple bucks too.
Yeah, I did the math. And
Weed's pretty cheap though.
Well, adds up.
Depends on if you're smoking fucking half gram or 2 gram joints.
well, but since it became legalized too, it's like you could just buy pre-rolls, right? So I was spending anywhere between $500 to $600 a month.
Oh
right?
shit, pre-rolls? Yeah, they
right?
fuck you on
It's
those.
just too easy.
Yeah. I got caught in that trap too for like a couple months.
Yeah.
Because my bong broke and I was just lazy and I'm like, yeah, I'll just go buy a pack of joints. And then like the next day I bought another pack of joints and the next day I bought
I was
another pack.
buying
Stupid.
20 at a time, and it would
Stupid.
last me a day and a half.
Fuck, eh?
Right. So
Fuck. Were you ever like smoking that Frankenstein shit?
I don't know if Frankenstein. This one was.
Frankenstein out there.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
Pedro's sweet. That's what I was smoking.
Pedro's
a ton
sweet.
Of,
Yeah.
Fuck. Before, it's like my first client. I'd have a client, and I'd go in the back and I'd smoke a joint, probably 2, and meet someone, probably another 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So I'd be like 4 joints deep after my first client, and then I'd take a client, and then I'd
Client
go
has like
smoke.
personal training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'd that was really high functioning, right? It didn't affect me the same way.
No, you can be a functioning alcoholic.
Yeah, and then
It exists.
I would get ready to train, so that'd be another couple joints in the back, and then
Yeah.
I would train halfway through my session because I usually go about an hour and a half, 2 hours. So halfway through, I'd go and repeat, and then afterwards the same thing, and then
Fuck, no.
His
Yeah,
lungs
so-
are literal bullets. Like his lungs could break steel because he's just hauling and then he's going and he's pumping.
I didn't want to think about the damage that I was doing to my lungs.
Yeah.
I didn't want to think about that.
Yeah.
But
You're healed now.
8 months, I wonder what the timeline is on that. I don't know. It's hard to
That
say.
takes like 2 or 3 sleeps, I think, is what I've been.
Yeah. Just sleep it off. Just
How
sleep it
long
off.
does it take to heal your lungs?
Don't look that up.
Yeah, I won't do that this week.
Yeah, I haven't even looked either.
Should we find out?
Sure, let's do it.
Well, does your lungs like they don't
7 years.
100% like heal, right? Or do
7
they?
years. 7 years, you're a fully different human. So, I mean, the max time it's going to take is 7
Right,
years.
for like cellular
replacement. I mean, if that's realistic, I don't know if
I
that's
should just say
realistic
smoking
inside.
weed for
Smoking is probably
smoking.
Let's see what this says here.
quit smoking.
It's going to be a lot of propaganda.
It's going to be a lot of, can a smoker's lungs go back to normal?
wow.
No.
Yeah.
After you have, oh yeah.
9 months.
You're getting
9
there.
months. Dude,
Fuck
you're
yeah.
fucking
You got a
fully
month
healed.
away.
My lungs have significantly healed
Yeah.
themselves. That's good news. So
Yeah.
October, it's actually, I'm at the 8-month mark now. So I'm working on 9. So I'm 8.5. Fuck yeah.
Oh, look at this. Wait, read that. Over time, your lungs and overall health can recover even further. So if you smoke, your lungs will be stronger. That's what it's saying. Confirmed. Smokers have better lungs if they stop. Confirmed.
See, this is what I thought it was. I don't know if like maybe I guess they could go back to 100%.
All right, let's just nip this in the bud. Smoking cigarettes is a lot worse than smoking weed, right?
I think so.
I would say so.
I gotta say.
Well,
right?
conventional cigarettes for sure. There's a lot of chems in that shit, but
I mean, I guess you can roll your own tobacco and then it's a little bit better. Or is that
Well,
what you're saying? Or?
I'm actually of I'm of the thinking that nicotine and like good tobacco is probably not as bad as we've been led to
Yeah.
believe.
Oh, I mean, yeah, nicotine for sure. I mean, nicotine is not a bad drug. It's actually very useful. It's a very good, it's a tool. You
Yeah.
can call nicotine a tool 1000%. It's just we are addicted to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with caffeine. Like most people, I don't know if you've heard this with caffeine. A lot of people, they wake up and they drink coffee
Yeah.
the second they get out of bed. Like the second they get out of bed,
Yeah.
that is the first thing they're doing. That's not good for you. Is it Andrew Huberman who said that? I think it's Andrew. He's like the brain
Scientist
boy,
guy,
brain
yeah.
guy.
Yep.
And
Neuroscientist,
yeah, and he brings up that like if you wait an hour and a half after you
Yep.
wake up to drink your coffee,
You don't get the same crash.
you will not
Yeah.
get the same crash. And I've followed that since I've heard that video the first time, and it's like 1000%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1000%. I just feel like at 2 PM, I'm not dead.
Yeah.
I remember in high school, and 3 o'clock would come, and I'd like need a fucking nap because I drank a extra large coffee from Tim Hortons 30 seconds after I had woken up.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I just never was taught that. My parents never told me that. That's for fucking sure.
What's your thoughts on like coffee? Like you obviously
I love
drink it and
coffee,
stuff.
but yeah, I follow that advice. So the first thing I do when I get up, I started taking AG1.
yeah,
Athletic
I saw you
Greens.
post on your story. Would you recommend it?
Yeah,
I've been
man.
thinking about
I'm
it.
past the honeymoon phase now, and I can tell the days that I don't take it. Like,
Really?
is it placebo? Fuck, I don't know.
Take
I
it,
don't
roll
know.
with it.
But I think that it's been filling in some nutritional spots, like blind spots that I've had.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it gives you a bunch of different mushrooms, like the
It's
lion's
adaptogens
mane
as well,
and the like. There's really good stuff in there for you that you don't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
You really don't.
So it's been 3 or 4 months now.
You feeling it?
Yeah, I love it. And
Do you take that right when you wake up?
first thing in the morning?
Nice.
Yeah,
Smart.
first thing in the morning, and then I'll just do a couple chores probably, and check in on whatever news cycle. I'll just sort of putz around,
Mm-hmm.
and then I've already been up for a few hours before I have coffee.
Yeah.
So I get up early now too, which is a weird thing that happened. I used to probably stemming back from when I used to work in the industry. I'd be up late, and so I was never a morning guy.
Yeah.
I'm a morning person now. I usually wake up just naturally. I haven't used an alarm in years.
Yeah. The sunlight gets you.
Yeah. So in the summer, I definitely get up earlier, about 6:30, 6:45. I'll wake up and I'll get up, and first thing I do is my AG1, and then usually by 9 o'clock I'll have a coffee.
Yeah, I see you're outside in the morning a lot too. You get
Yeah.
the sunlight
Yeah,
pretty
first
early
thing.
on. Yeah, it's really good for you.
Yeah,
to
water
do.
my plants. I've got a garden going this year.
Barefoot, barefoot,
Uh,
grounding.
Yeah, just because that's just the way it seems to work.
It's good for you. Touching
Yeah.
the ground.
Yeah. I'm pretty minimal clothes wear in the summer.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Just
hot
fucking
up.
shorts. That's all you need.
Short shorts. That's pretty
man.
much all I have.
I've been starting to go. My shorts are getting shorter and shorter every
Good. Good.
couple years.
Ah, boy.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't even know how that started for me. But I've just been doing it for so long that, before it was a thing. I don't know.
Well, look, my stepdad will make fun of me. Like, fuck you. I got legs to show off. That's why I wear these fucking
Yeah, you got to
short
get the
shorts.
solar panels out, man.
Exactly. Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah. No, you got to tan yourself. I got some fucking
Yeah.
reflector beams.
Yeah, we demonize the sun, but my sun exposure starts early in the year. So as soon as I can tolerate not having a shirt on, I'll be out there. So
It's healthy for you.
Yeah.
It's so good for you.
yeah, and like what Brett noted, it's a morning sun.
Yeah.
But I'm not afraid of midday sun. I can tell, you can just sort of feel it. And like any relationship that you build with anything, you just start to know what your tolerance is and what you can get away with, what's too much, what's not enough.
The first couple hours is the best.
Yeah, it's great.
Because
It's
it's not hitting y'all.
No, it's low on the horizon, so
Right.
it's being
Most of
filtered
it's-
through the
yeah.
atmosphere a lot more.
Yeah.
And then
That's true, right?
And then
That makes
overhead,
sense.
so in the later part of the day, I'll just be smaller. Like I can about 10 minutes. and
Yeah.
then I need to get some shade, some shelter.
Yeah.
So I'll just do rounds of that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yes,
then as the
super valuable.
as the season progresses,
Mm-hmm.
you just get a little bit less. But I mean, my vitamin D store is pretty solid
Fucking
Yeah.
nice.
through. Yeah. And then I supplement vitamin D in the winter, but I get so much in the summer.
Yeah.
And another thing that I heard too with that is that when you shower, try not to use soap as much because because the vitamin D is absorbed. It's created on the surface of the skin, and then it's absorbed through the skin.
You create natural oils,
Yeah.
and that is what you're supposed to use to clean yourself, because that attaches to the dirt, and then you wipe it off. It's funny because you see propaganda. It's like, are you one of the guys that's not using like a loofah and not using soap? It's like, fuck you. It's
I'm a
like,
pits and bits guy. Right?
Yeah.
Like for soap.
right?
Yeah, and
I
all
don't know.
natural soaps too.
And the hair, once a month, twice a month for shampoo. Like,
no, you once every 3 or 4 days, I'd say.
you okay? Yeah. I did the thing for like 6 months where I didn't use shampoo, and after the first month, like I was greasy for the first month, but after the second month, and I'm still on. Like I don't use shampoo very often. Because your hair does it for you.
Yeah.
Like Daniel did the same thing, and Daniel was a greasy fucker. Whatever. It's a stupid name. And he did that. He had the exact same effects, like his grease, because you're not producing all those oils because your body is trying to get rid of all the fucking chemicals on your head if you keep doing it. I don't know. Like, that's what I've read online, but minimalistic, you know, you don't have to use too much.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but yeah, I don't know.
I just stay away from the parabens and the bullshit.
Yeah. That's fair.
Good quality.
Natural tea tree oil.
Yeah.
Well,
That's my
Steph,
favorite.
I really want to talk about this.
Sure.
Can you explain MovNat a little bit to listeners,
Yeah. So
viewers?
the way, yeah. Okay. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what MovNat is. A lot of people will think that it's just, just body weight. But if you were to break it into two main modalities, let's just say within the systems, you want to lift and carry things, and you want to manipulate things, right? So lifting and carrying, catching and throwing. There's a manipulative side of the things in the way that you engage in life. And then there's also the locomotive aspect, so how you move your body through space. And you need to do them all, right? Yeah, you need to do them all. So manipulative, like I said, lifting, carrying, catching, throwing. Mm-hmm. And then the locomotive aspects, that could be just walking, running, vaulting, climbing, getting up and down off the ground, vault, jumping.
Very movement based, obviously MovNat.
Yeah, so
that's
displacing your body in space.
Sure.
Right. And then the other one is you're moving an object in space. You need to do them all. So there's more or less efficient ways to do these things. Right. So it serves you well to learn the efficient way to do these things because safety depends on it.
Sure.
Caloric expenditure depends on that. And then the more efficient you become and the more the better ways and options that you have, the safer that you are, right?
Okay. So you guys are building super soldiers is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's not just what you're doing. It's not how you're moving your body, and it's not what you're manipulating necessarily. It's also where you're doing it, right?
Okay.
So if you're only training in a certain environment, you'll only adapt to doing that thing in that environment. So it stands to reason if you change your environment,
Interesting.
then the adaptive process will become more robust, right? So the more complex the environment that you're in, the more potent the adaptive process will become.
For sure.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So it does not get any more complex than a natural environment. So if you're just to take a walk, right, in the street, everything is very flat and predictable.
Yeah.
Geometrically sound.
Right.
If you go and you go off the path, right, then no two steps are the same. So the way that your ankles, your feet, your knees, your hips, your spine, everything has to adjust to make these subtle, tiny, micro, nuanced movements, the more you're going to adapt to that.
Right. Okay.
So the adaptive process is directly correlated to the context, right? The situation and the environment that you're in.
Yeah.
So that's the easiest way to think about it. So what we do is we get people to start not just expanding on the complexity of their movements, but also the complexity of your environment.
I see.
So if you think for the 200,000 years of Homo sapiens, right, we had to move in very complex terrains.
Yeah.
And then we just stopped. So
Barefoot
we started
mostly.
Yeah.
Right.
and we started outsourcing our movement for different technologies. So shoes, that's technology,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
the way that we started walking and running was dictated by the shoes that were being manufactured.
Sure.
And so
Which
a lot
caused
of
us to run a lot faster too, right?
not necessarily.
Not at first.
actually.
Not at first.
No footwear. I think was probably a bigger detriment to the way, because it started to dictate the way that we started to run. It actually belied our intrinsic properties of the foot, because
So it stopped us from growing and
it created actually created bigger issues.
Really?
So yeah, because if you don't have shoes on, the way that you run is going to be very different than if you have a padded heel.
absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
So
sure.
it actually created a lot more injury.
Really?
And it really just has to do with heel striking, you know,
Because people are hitting with their heel.
because it's a soft heel, right? It's padded.
Yeah. Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you're not as bent over and like I don't know. It
We're
just
not doing
changes-
any of the things that you would have to do. So if you're just to take your shoes off and go run go run in the street,
Yeah.
you would immediately change. Your body is very intelligent,
Yeah.
and so it would change the way that your foot falls on the ground. Right, it would change that immediately because it would just hurt to land on your heels.
Yeah.
So you'd immediately work to landing on the forefront of your foot, like
Right.
the balls of the feet.
Yeah.
And and not just your feet, but just the rest of your body would also start to take on a completely different shape. The way
Right.
that you lean,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Interesting.
way that you engage your arms in the stride.
It all starts with your foot, right? That's going to change
Yeah.
drastically the rest of your posture.
Yeah, because
right?
that's
totally,
yeah, exactly
totally.
because that's the point of contact between you, right,
Yeah,
and the surface that you're on.
literally it's how you're staying up. Yeah, no.
And then the strength of your foot would increase, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
your foot with leather, and then it would be a better shoe.
And have a
and then-
cascading effect. So
Yeah.
ankles, knees, hips.
Yeah, interesting.
Should normalize it. Start running without shoes on.
Well, I mean, there were certain industries that did start to promote that, but I mean, the adaptive process takes a while, right?
Yeah.
So
We're
it's
so-
really about dosage.
Yeah.
So if this is you and you want to start doing a bit more barefoot, yeah, just start with walking.
Yeah,
And it's too much too soon. That's what usually leads to injury.
Yeah. Just rushing right into it.
Yeah.
when I have kids, I'm gonna make sure I raise them like I want them to be old humans. They're never gonna wear shoes. They're only gonna eat with their hands. They're never I'm gonna make them little cavemen. See what they turn out to be. Yeah.
Well,
No.
I mean, there are large swaths of the population on planet Earth that actually live that way.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah, it's true. We're just so blinded to our Western ways.
So how long have you been with MovNat?
2014.
Wow.
It's, I did my, I just actually, probably 2013 actually, I think is more accurate.
Okay.
I heard about it in 2012 when I got back from Italy. And it was on a podcast that I saw.
Yeah.
And it was another sort of video adjacent to that was this video called The Workout the World Forgot. And it's got Erwan, who's the founder, and he's running and swimming and jumping and vaulting and climbing through beautiful landscapes.
Yeah.
And I saw that and it just spoke to me because at that time, like, I'd already been a trainer before I left.
Yeah.
So I did martial arts, but then I got involved in training because I realized that the people, like the students that I was teaching martial arts, had all of these inefficiencies. They were lacking something, right? So I started to get involved in fitness and learned the fitness game a little bit more. So I did that for a number of years. But then when I moved to Italy, I was just working as an educator. I was working as a teaching assistant, a teacher, and it actually made my coaching game better. So my ability, for communication and.
Oh, okay, sure.
So when I came back, I wanted to find a completely different modality. So I looked at a bunch of different things. MovNat was one of them, and it just spoke to me.
Yeah.
It spoke to me on a very deep level.
Cool.
So the way that I look at it now, it's kind of like the martial arts of movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you
Okay.
earn your progression.
Yeah.
It's fully robust.
Bunch of levels and stuff. I've
Yeah,
been seeing.
yeah. So I listened to this, and before the podcast was over, I signed up for my level 1 in Vancouver. I was living in Calgary at the time.
Yeah.
So I did my level 1, and I loved it. I was hooked. I had a shoulder injury that I was still nursing. That was still several months out. But I used the MovNat, like especially a lot of the crawling and transitions and hanging and swinging, in order to build my shoulder up. So when I did my level 2, I was ready for that. And I did a combative course as well, MovNat Combatives, and I met Erwan. I met all the top instructors at the time. So it was a very, very pivotal point in my life there.
Yeah.
So that would have been 2014, 15. And then 2016, I did my level 3 down in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Wow.
And then I did my aquatics extra. So there's 3 levels of MovNat. And then there are 2 extras. And one is combatives and the other is aquatics. So you just become really well versed in all of the human activities.
Yeah.
But being a martial arts guy already and a combative guy already.
Yeah. It was kind of nice.
Yeah, it was really good. And I was a little skeptical, honestly, of what the curriculum would be, but
Sure.
I loved it. I think it's fantastic. I've actually done that course 5 times now. I've done the aquatics 2 times.
Wow.
And they brought me on as an instructor in 2016, and I cut my teeth down in Argentina. I got sent down to Argentina, and I worked with Megatlon, which is the biggest gym sort of conglomerate in Greater Buenos Aires. They have like 35 or so different gyms.
Wow.
And so all these different gyms, they sent their top trainers to come and do this MovNat certification.
Okay.
So I had to teach it in a mixture of English and Italian and really bad Spanish just to get the point across. So it was awesome. It was awesome.
That's so
I had
cool.
about 35, 40 different instructors come. So it was a massive course, and it was my first time teaching myself without any other instructors there.
Yeah,
so
you were
it was
the guy.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's so cool.
And since that time, I've taught the MovNat course 30 times. I just taught my 30th course this summer here in Victoria.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks.
That's
Yeah.
huge. That's a big milestone for you.
So, I've had the opportunity to coach all over. So
That's
I
fantastic.
really love it. Yeah.
And just for the listeners too, so like layman's term, it's not CrossFit.
No.
That's not what it is, but you're hitting all of your core muscles while you're doing most of these movements. Is that the goal?
Yeah. So
you're using your entire body from all these things, like climbing, hanging, jumping, swimming. Like you're really using your body when you're doing
just
that.
think of all the things that you would have had to do at one point just to survive, right? So you need to be able to walk, run, get up and down off the ground. You need to be able to climb.
Yeah.
You need to be able to jump and vault. You need to be able to lift and carry things.
Yeah.
Right. And you need to be able to catch and throw.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All these things that make us uniquely human.
Yeah.
So we do those things, but it's an education system.
Yeah.
Right. And so we teach the formation of technique. We teach you how to become efficient at these things.
Interesting.
And so,
be mindful of your movements while you're doing. Yeah.
But also there's technique, right? So you're looking at really only 6 things, like position, breathing, sequence, timing, and then a balance between tension and relaxation.
Okay. Interesting.
So those 6 things create technique.
Yeah.
And so if you learn about that and you learn about these principles, you end up becoming like
fascinating.
Yeah, and in today's standards, you become almost superhuman.
Okay, superhuman. I'm glad you bring that up because I'm curious if you want to share your age, but you are in the top 1%, right? For your age, you got to be.
Easily.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a crazy stat where, like, if you can bench 225, you're in the 1% or 10%, is that what it is? Or 1%?
That's like a 1%.
Is it?
That's just for bench press.
But just for bench press. But I'm just saying, like, most people can't even fucking do that. Like,
no, I think to be able to do, and not just at my age, just in general, to be able to have a very well-rounded physical competency.
Sure.
Yeah, it's well under 1%.
Which is very unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate
because we have so many resources to be fit, and like there are good options for food, and there are good things you can do, but there's just so much bullshit. There's so much addiction. There's so much bullshit out there. But it's nice to see that
you're chasing either performance or you're chasing an aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
But there are limitations even on both of those aspects, right? So if you're only chasing aesthetic, it's like, nice body, but what can you do with it?
Exactly. That's where I'm starting the transition because that's all I was doing for the longest time.
And if it's just performance, it's like, okay, but based on what, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Based on what? So the way that I like to explain it is say, okay, you've got 2 ways to develop. You can think in terms of the long evolutionary stages of becoming human. And so along that line, like there were certain things that we had to do just to survive, right? And there were environments that we lived in that shaped us literally.
Sure.
So the way the body that we have now was shaped by the environment that we had to move in for millions of years.
Yeah.
And so there's an evolutionary history towards our bodies. So like our shoulders, we have the same shoulders as great apes, So we used to brachiate and we used to be arboreal apes. So our shoulder structure is very reminiscent of that.
Yeah.
Yet we don't do those things very often anymore. So our shoulders literally atrophy. And so it limits all sorts of things, our ability to lift our arms over our head.
Yeah.
Right. So quality of life starts to degrade as well, just because we're not doing the things that we evolved doing for hundreds of thousands.
Because
of
we
years.
just don't fucking use the same
We just
muscles.
don't do the shit anymore.
Yeah.
Another way to think about it is the human development as a baby, right? So when we, it started moving toward bipedalism, like just rolling around on the ground was a big deal. You change your orientation, you're able to move and crawl and roll, just flipping from your back to your stomach, right? Prone, supine, and then finally being able to slowly locomate, pull your body.
Is that slowly making little muscles for the little guys?
Absolutely.
And so that it takes the rolling to build the muscles to hold yourself up. Even.
Absolutely.
Right.
And then so
never
once you
thought about
start,
that.
yes. So, and you're only like 6, 7, 8 pounds at that point, right?
Yeah.
And you're starting to build the strength and stability in order to start propping yourself up,
Right,
right? So
right.
you're, and then that strength then is translated into, well, what do you guess? What do you think is next after you like?
Probably the hips, I would think.
Well, what do you do? So before baby
'Cause
became bipedal, like what did they start doing?
You crawl.
Crawl?
Oh,
yeah.
your
And then
arms.
what? And then what?
Then you'll try and stand.
Yeah.
Right?
And how do you do that?
You
Get
with
up.
support.
Yeah.
With support,
You
you
start
hold on to
climbing.
something.
Yeah.
So you pull. Oh, your arms
Yeah.
are already stronger. So now I can do this. Oh.
So baby started
right?
crawling, and then they started climbing.
Holy fuck!
right?
I never thought of this
And then
before.
and then they start to develop the balance to stand on 2 feet,
Right.
right? And then they become holy terrors. Right? So they can climb out of their crib, right?
crib,
And then they can start. Then they're manipulating things and
Their
shaking and throwing things.
their
right?
fingers, they start
Yeah.
getting their fingers a little bit more,
Right.
right? They can distinguish. Oh,
Yeah.
right?
So then more the intrinsic qualities and properties of those like small fine tuning.
Yeah.
And then they're running and jumping and doing all those things. But if so,
So cool.
what I do with humans and what I do with the adult version is not different at all. I get
Right.
them moving on the ground. I get them changing between different sitting postures, sitting, kneeling, squatting.
Yeah.
I get them crawling in various ways.
Yeah.
I get them hanging and swinging and climbing.
Interesting.
Get them lifting, get them balancing, get them jumping, vaulting,
Yeah.
and then they're performing better than
Because it's still doing the same shit.
same shit. And what an effect it has on the body.
Wow.
Because our
imagine.
body craves that. It's like we've been malnourished, right?
Yeah. Very interesting.
And all of a sudden you reintroduce these ways of moving to your body, and you feel it right away. You're just like, I remember when. I remember when I used to be able to do this. I remember when I was a kid, I used to excel at this.
Yeah.
And then, it's usually around kindergarten, grade 1 that we become champion sitters. Right? And we're sitting down for far too long. And
Yeah.
right. And the other bullshit aspect of that is like, how do they discipline a child that's a little bit, rambunctious, or they can't focus, antsy.
Tell them
right?
to sit.
They tell them to sit, and
Just
then
be still.
and they remove even more movement from you by not allowing you to go for recess. Right? It's the exact opposite of what they should be promoting. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Really.
So they found like people with ADHD and attention deficit issues, they actually perform a lot better when they're allowed to move. Right?
Yeah.
So
they're allowed to
school
pace
is a
around.
detriment. Yeah. So that, I take, I definitely have beefs with the education system.
Take your kids out of school, homeschool them. You're hearing it first.
Yeah, just allow them to move. And as a parent, like the thing I always run up against, you've got a playground right outside here, and it's fucking,
we know.
it's fucking empty. So
Oh.
just-
Well, when those kids are on recess, they fucking sure like
Yeah.
the yell.
and so when I'm in an area like that, and usually some parents ask me like, what is the best thing that I can do? And my answer to them is just engage with your kids, play with your kids. If you can keep up with your kids, you're doing really well.
Yeah, right.
Just don't
Right.
stop doing that.
Yeah.
Don't
run
stop.
around with them.
Run
Yeah.
around with them. Get on the ground with them. Get on their level.
Yeah.
Climb the structures with them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you'll be doing better than a huge swath of the population.
Yeah.
Totally.
Very interesting, man. Yeah, that's a good take.
Movement complexity. That's the thing. So there's novelty that we miss out on, right? So if you talk about like development of our brain, development of our nervous system, like it's really about movement novelty, different ways of moving your body, different ways to express it. And then there's a whole lot of correlations between short-term memory as well and our ability to to move, right? So having to move through a complex environment, remembering where those obstacles are, and there's a really powerful and profound effect on the body, and the mind. So
that's very cool, man.
yeah.
No, it's you guys are doing good stuff. I can tell that. It's you're obviously very passionate about it too. So that's amazing.
Yeah,
You found something that you love.
I love it.
Yeah.
So you think about all the other things, like, you know, what about dance? Right.
Yeah.
So MovNat lay at the foundation for all of these other more expressive ways to move your body.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Really.
I think, you know, sex is another one too. I often make the joke, you know, but I work with a lot of guys that are, you know, in late 30s, 40s, 50s, and they'll tell me, it's like, man, I just fuck better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could imagine.
Yeah.
Right?
Those hips move a little
your
better.
your body's a little looser.
Your body is looser. Your body is more intelligent. It's more balanced.
Yeah.
It's just, or one would call it a smart body.
Yeah,
Interesting.
there's a muscle there apparently. Like when it's more relaxed or whatever, it makes you last longer too. I'd have to look into it more, but
Stagnation, right? Yeah. So you wonder how that manifests in the body.
yeah,
Very interesting.
it's wild.
Interesting. I want to go into a deep question here.
Yeah.
If that's okay. Moving away from this. I'm curious, throughout your lifetime, what's one of your like biggest failures? And how did you combat that? Like where were you where you're like, okay, what the fuck? You know, I gotta switch some shit up if this is happening. You know what I mean?
Man, maybe a relationship. I think I failed in a relationship.
Yeah.
And a lot of the learning I think that seeded me as to where I am now, probably the most over everything else. It's just learning about relationships, learning about love, learning about romance, learning, and then through that process, you just learn a lot about yourself.
It's a big
conscious relationships, right? So
introspective,
I've had to, very much so.
Yeah.
So learning how I failed in that relationship, I think, is probably the best medicine that I've had. It's made me go back and deal with all sorts of things, right back into my childhood trauma.
Okay.
Learning how I used to, you know, the relationship with myself and my relationship with love, the idea, the concept of love and romance, sex and sexuality. So that,
interesting.
Yeah, so that was a 10-year relationship that came to an end, and I didn't see it coming. I just really didn't see it coming. I was very blindsided. Yeah. And so I had to reestablish a lot about relationships and especially with that relationship with myself. I think that was probably the steepest learning curve. And so throughout the last few years, so that would have been 2019, 18, 19. Yeah. So over the last 3, 4, 5 years, I've done a lot of really deep work.
Love's a hard one. Hey, love is probably one of the hardest things to comprehend as a human, I feel like, because I don't know, just from my own experience, and I'm a young buck, so I mean, I can't say I know too much about it, but man, it fucks you up.
Yeah.
It can really fuck you up. And especially like the relationships and the time you spent with a person, it's hard. It's really hard to like distinguish your own feelings when you're, I don't know if that makes any sense, but like once you're in that relationship for so long, things get cloudy with yourself almost, right? Because you're so used to having that other person as a support system, you almost forget they're another person, if that makes sense.
That's it, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's codependence.
Yeah, which I think it's super valuable.
You lose your own autonomy.
Yeah, it's super valuable to have that person if it can work, or, you know, while it's working, but man, it's just weird. It's just a weird thing to reflect on later and after. You're like, holy fuck, that all happened. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
so communication is important. Learning how to identify and discuss what your feelings are, right?
Yeah.
You know, what your emotions are.
Yeah.
So how to describe those.
Yeah.
Understanding the difference between intentions and impact. It was a big one. Okay. Right? You'd have the best intentions, but
what's the impact?
What is the impact on that person?
Interesting.
So I've had to learn a lot of these tough lessons, and fortunately, I've had some really intelligent, very loving, capable people with those tools come into my life.
That's good.
And so I've been able to learn. That's probably been the biggest focus of my development has been around interrelationships.
Yeah. But it starts with yourself.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. It starts and ends with yourself, really.
Not in a bad way, like, but it just, you have to be in that mental space to even start trying to get into a relationship or even building a relationship. You know, I'm under the like thing now where apps suck. Like dating sucks as a 25-year-old just because it's so weird. Like there's so many different options and people are so socially awkward now where it's like approaching people is hard, it seems, right? But that's, I don't know, I just want to become friends with as many people as I can and whatever blossoms through there, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like actually getting to know a person is so much more valuable than just this stupid, oh, I find you attractive, let's go on a date.
That's how
Because that shit is bullshit. It's I don't like the, oh, she's hot, yeah, I'll take her on a date and then we'll see where it goes. Like, because that's the healthy way of dating nowadays, right? And it's like, obviously you see a girl, she's attracted, then you want to go talk to her. That, I know that's how it's always worked. Like, let's not be ridiculous. It's just weird nowadays. It's just very strange. I don't know. Girls, I think specifically for girls, it's weird for girls because they're just getting so much reassurance every single day. I can only imagine what that would do. I can only imagine what that would do. Just all these fucking losers always trying to message you, always trying to talk to you. It's just weird. I don't know. We live in a weird time for dating, but I want it to be more organic. I want it to actually be something that it's built throughout a year or 2 or 3, you know, an actual relationship that can actually grow.
it's hard not to put too much pressure on yourself either.
Overthinking is the biggest issue. And I think it comes to relationships too. Like if you overthink stuff, cause like
attachment to outcome.
Totally. Yeah, because you fixate on that one thing, be it sex or be it just like holding a hand, whatever it is. Like it can be that simple. I don't know, when you're a young kid, you're like, oh, this girl, I don't know. It's just, it's not worth like wasting your mental capability on things, like you just focus on yourself and that will come, I feel like.
I think that you need just to cultivate yourself, cultivate interests.
Yeah.
Right. Become an interesting person.
Exactly.
Yeah, big time.
Control the room and people will come to you. Or not even control, but control the room.
Just learn how to control yourself.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Just be the master of your own emotions.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's highly underappreciated.
Reflect, don't react. I live by that.
Yeah.
Because
Observe,
anger
observe,
issues.
don't absorb.
Sure. I like that. That's a good one too. Observe, don't absorb. Yeah.
A lot of cute little ways just to engage in a different capacity.
I just feel like there's a lot of times where you can just like get angry, or somebody says something and it like pisses you off, and then you just have to say your zippy little thing back to them. I've struggled from that my entire life, and it's like I've been more, especially in the past couple jobs I've had. I've just been, okay, I'm working right now. I can think about this later.
Yeah.
I can complain about this to somebody other than a coworker, or a coworker that I know I can trust later.
Yeah.
We can talk about this later. I had a little spat with one of my managers, and usually I would take it to the next level and I'd belittle them and I'd and I'd just be like, fuck you, you're wrong. This is why you're wrong. I'm going to tell you you're wrong. You're still wrong, and just be immature about the whole thing. But instead, I just tried to talk respectfully. I said, I disagree. Sorry. Don't want any issue. Let's talk about this after. Right. And then she still came at me with some more bullshit. I'm like, I'm not doing this right now. I'm sorry. This is going to be a productive conversation. Yeah. I'm going to go do something else and then we'll talk after. And then we did. And it was perfect. Right. I know older or younger me would not have handled things the same way. And it's just a matter of, being aware of those things, and being aware of how you're acting. And that's the other thing with the liquor too, like just over drinking. Like I don't like when I'm super drunk. I get sloppy, I get loud, and it's just, you don't want to be that person. I want to be a better person when it comes to that. So
yeah,
I don't know.
You never know who's watching, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we're in lack of good models in today's world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need
So
some
you can
more
see the
models out
people.
there.
Yeah, you can see the ones that are doing really well, and all eyes are on them.
Yeah.
and probably for good reason.
Yeah.
They're displaying and demonstrating like some really high quality human qualities.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it takes time, and it takes a lot of hubris. It takes a lot of control and humor
Yeah.
to be consistent in that arena.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this was saying earlier about working at a bar or restaurant is a bit of a hack, because you get like a little mini life in order to, with each table, right,
Yeah.
you get a little bit of practice
Yeah.
in that arena.
Yeah. Be whoever you want when you're serving.
Different
true.
person every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, no, I understand what you mean for sure. All right, well, I think we're past an hour here, so I think we'll wrap her up. But yes, this was a very fun conversation.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
good.
Before we get you the hell out of here, we're gonna ask you to set a goal for the week. So something attainable, something that you need to get done.
So I'm actually embarking on filming a new course, a new digital e-course for
Okay.
MovNat. So this one will be all on balance,
Okay.
something that doesn't exist. So actually I'll start that project, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday.
Beautiful.
It'll take
Nice.
a few days, and then a few
Absolutely.
days to film, and then a few more days to produce and edit music and run the promos. So probably about 2-3 weeks out to having a finished
Yeah,
product.
good for you. But you're getting it started this week.
Yeah.
Love
Right
that.
on.
Yeah.
Love that.
So everything's all set. So I've got the videographer, and
Beautiful.
yeah,
Nice.
so that's the big one.
Well,
Exciting.
what is it? Captain Stefano on
Yeah.
Instagram.
Captain Stefano on Instagram. Find me there.
And
Anywhere else to plug, or
Yeah, go check out MovNat.com.
Of course.
And then I've another project that I started 28 weeks ago was on YouTube. So it's the MTS, MovNat Training Sessions. Every week I film what a MovNat session can look
Okay.
like in a gym. you
Yeah.
know? So yeah, go check that out. It's the MTS. So yeah, it's consistency. So I think,
MTS on YouTube. Is that right?
yeah,
okay, cool.
MovNat MTS. It's available on the MovNat YouTube as well.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And sign up for the newsletter at MovNat.com, and you'll get all that free stuff. We got a lot of free resources out there.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Definitely.
If anybody's liking what Steph's talking about, get into it, you guys.
So yeah, get into it.
Absolutely.
I hold a course here in Victoria every year. So yeah, you can reach out to me, DM me. Yeah, there they are. Look at that.
Beautiful.
Tons of them. Little tiny Stefano on your screen.
I love that. Cool, man. Well, we'll end it here. Thanks again.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Beautiful.
thanks,
Ciao, ciao.
Stefano. Feels so weird to do this. And we're back.
That was good.
That was great.
That was very fun. It's just, I don't know. He was just so easy to talk to, and we had some great questions, and he came back with a bunch of great answers. It was a great interview.
Honestly, no, it was so sick. Yeah, if you listen to the whole thing, you should leave a review or a comment, and let us know what you think. Go give Stefano a follow.
Yeah, and check out MovNat if it sounds like something you guys are into. I think they do e-lessons too, so that you
Yep.
can do some stuff online. I saw that on their website, so
Yeah,
definitely
courses
check it out.
online.
I might be looking into it as well. It's a movement. It's very, very
Could
fundamental, I think.
Yeah.
It was very cool listening to what he said. The baby thing blew me the fuck away.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I
I-
was when he started talking. I was just like, I totally was just like
I'm so stupid.
listening to him. I was just like,
I forgot the camera is on. What? Yeah. Anyways, it's just very, very fun to talk to you, and just a
we'll
great guy.
get him on again eventually.
Yeah.
That was sick. And just some fun stuff down the pipeline here, guys. Obviously, just as in the intro, podcast network event Saturday here, August the 12th, and we got some guests lined up.
Yeah, we do have a bunch of guests
Got some
lined
guests
up.
lined up. Not going to spoil the names here or anything, but we got some really fun stuff, and we're going to be in different places recording some of them, so it's going to be super cool.
Yeah.
We'll be in Vancouver for one of them, which will be neat.
Yeah, it will be neat.
It'll be very neat.
Maybe we'll be in Vancouver this week. What do you think about that?
What do you mean?
We could do a podcast in the Tacoma. It's a thought.
In the Tacoma?
We could do a podcast in the Tacoma.
I guess we could.
We could.
Could think about it.
It's a thought. Anyways, because we're going to Vancouver.
Where
this
am I
week.
going to stamp this thing up as I speak?
You have to hold it.
Fucking hell. Let's do it. I like it.
I could get you mic'd up on the little mini guys too. Try that. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. Definitely follow us on our Instagram, Twitter,
X.
X. Sorry. Follow us on X.
Follow us at X.
Yeah.
We're on everything. Just go give it a follow.
Facebook.
TikTok. We're posting clips constantly.
Yeah.
I don't know. We got a lot of great stuff out there.
There's more to come.
Oh, there's so much to come.
There's so much come.
There's so much just coming.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
All right. Cheers, fuckers. Knocked your socks off with that one.
I love that.